What is going on, everyone? Tis Miyanovich, and I welcome you to the main dojo, the place where we process the raw struggles of men in an unprecedented paradigm. There is something inside of you that wants you to be more than what you are. But there also may be something inside of you that wants you to go down. And for some of us, that means going down for good. So, remove your ego, drop your bullshit, become vulnerable, and step into the dojo, mate. First and foremost, thank you so much for doing this, Chris. I consider it an honor to have have a conversation with you like this. So thank you for making the time.
Yeah, no, looking forward to it. I've enjoyed your input on the board. Yeah,
awesome. It's been having access to you. That's so easy. Has been it's been a major positive. So I'm sure you probably hear it all the time, but a lot of people aren't this accessible, right? But you're a world beater, and a person like myself, I think you aspire to be a space-time fabric ripper. That's what I consider myself. Like, I want to rip space-time fabric in my life, figure out how to do that.
Yep.
So having you as a world-class, world-tier subject matter expert to just like be able to text and be like, hey, Chris, what do you think of this? And you're like, oh, this, that, and the other is crazy. Like, so I appreciate it, man. I really appreciate it. I hope I can give back to you and the community as much as you give to me.
Awesome. Yeah. I put a fair bit of work into trying to be accessible. Obviously I can't do that like on every platform that I'm on.
Yeah.
Which is why trying to create a space where I can do that. Because it can be a bit much across all arenas to do that.
Yeah, especially your fucking brain and the octopus nature of the Chris Duffin arena, which is you're in a bunch of different spaces.
Yep.
With a very common core, but in a bunch of different spaces. I can imagine it would be quite challenging. So today I want to talk about like just generally human resilience. I'm going to roll in a bio before this that will cover everything. So like we don't have to cover your upbringing. We'll probably touch on it, but the details of it will already be in the intro.
Okay.
Like the details of your strength accomplishments and your entrepreneurial accomplishments will be in the bio. So we don't have to do like this is what Chris Duffin has done stuff. And I want to de-emphasize like the physical stuff and talk about the spiritual, mental, emotional. But I do want to start off by talking about the physical stuff because it's so fun. And we don't have to spend too much time. And then I do have a couple of questions, maybe one of which you won't want to answer because maybe it's too controversial. But can you remind me again, this is in my mind, this is who you are. I see you have your Guinness Book of World Records thing up on the wall behind you, I think. You're the only human who has ever deadlifted and squatted over 1,000 pounds together. Like a bunch of people have deadlifted over 1,000, a bunch of people have squatted over 1,000, but nobody has done both. Is that correct?
That's correct. So there's, a good half dozen people that have done one or the other, but nobody has done both. And I also did them for reps. So it's time. I was the only person that had deadlifted 1,000 pounds plus for reps, and that still may be the case. Yeah. So that was the fun part, just to put a little, yeah. You can go, well, I didn't quite like the way that looked. Sure. Oh, no, you repped it. Okay. Got it.
But you also, to be thorough in the Chris Duffin style, not only did you deadlift sumo, you deadlifted 1+ reps conventional also.
Not for the 1,000. I was planning on doing that, but my tolerance for being able to handle the training with the frequency you need.
Okay.
So I was training for 1,000 pound, and I didn't tell anybody about it because I was just going to do it. But my best conventional deadlift is 900 pounds,
okay.
905. But I did that in a I actually did that on my 40th birthday I started with the bar in my hands and people put a plate on. I deadlifted it 2 plates, deadlifted it 3 plates. So I actually went all the way up and in less than a minute deadlifted 600 pounds, 700 pounds, 800 pounds, 905 pounds. And then I was done. And then I was training. So I was deadlifting in the upper 800s for multiple sets and multiple reps per week when I hurt my back. And that was a pretty bad recovery. Like I had to learn to walk again type of thing. So, yeah, but that's where I specialize, is in recovery and those sorts of things. And so I kind of push the limits a lot of times, not in a way that I recommend, not in a way that I teach. I guess it's a do as I say, not as I do, right? Type piece. But that is also my process of how I learn writing that edge of what's possible and what's not, puts you in this place of being able to learn really, really fast, because you can discover 10 years worth of trial and experiment sometimes in weeks. Like when you're on this line of falling completely apart because I'm squatting 800 pounds every single day for 30 days, right? When I'm riding that line and I'm doing interventions, I can really know where you're at, because you can just feel near immediately, because you're on this cusp of like your body shutting down. It's crazy. And it sounds like I'm over speaking a bit, but in that phase, like when I was doing 800 every day, like my GI was like my autonomic nervous system was starting to have trouble. Like I could talk about my poop and other things that were going just like super weird, because like it was just impossible. And I just rode that line. I don't think people should do that. I don't think I should do it. I don't know how I did it. Honestly, I'm like, that's impossible.
Right. Well, I think if you have the kind of brain that you have, which is you have a rare brain. My friend Rob Pincus, who's in the firearms industry, he's very similar to you, but in firearms, and he has what he calls an alien brain, and he does, and it's great for good. It's amazing for some shit, maybe not so good for some other common things, but right?
Yep.
Like day-to-day shit, maybe not so much, but like rip space-time fabric, it's made for it.
Yep.
Right. So I can see why it is that your brain would go in that direction, and why you would be like, okay, you fuckers don't do this, but I'm going to do it, and I'm going to show you. Right. I can definitely see why that would work.
And then bring back the lessons from that journey.
From beyond, right? from the edge of the known universe. So there's a good question I had in there was, so when you said you can learn more in a couple weeks, then when you go to the edge, you could learn more in a couple weeks. It might take somebody else a couple of years. I think you have to have a Chris Duffin brain to do that. Like, I don't think everyone can go into that place and extract all of that in a short time frame. I think it takes a rare brain in order to do that, is my opinion. And also, I think what it makes me think about is you're getting towards the lethal threshold. Like, one of the reasons probably why the information coalesces so quickly for you is because you're getting closer to it, that information meaning injury or death, potentially, when you're fucking doing that stuff. Your poop is just one of the signs of you're getting closer.
Yep.
Or do you dying from it, or it fucking you up permanently?
Yep.
Right. Thank God it didn't.
Yeah. And I usually don't spend a lot of time like talking about the depths of that sort of stuff, because I don't want to romanticize like certain aspects. And that gets used a lot in this, social media or, any sort of media kind of realm, David Goggin-esque and so on, of like, it's like, that there's a lot of things that are not good about that, and trying to create like this storyline that romanticizes, so on. So I don't like to, typically don't like, hey, let's talk about the stories in the course of that, because it can it can create those signals, and people go, hey, I want to do that. I want to be. And it's like, no, that's really freaking dumb.
Yeah.
Because it's probably not going to work out the way that you think it's going to work out.
Yeah. Yeah. I can't remember in terms of the timeline. Cause so how old are you now?
I am 48.
Okay. So I'm 52. So maybe this is good. You are probably out of the pit of your upbringing by the time this happened, but I can't quite remember the year. But on Saturday Night Live, they did a skit with Phil Hartman where he was a Olympic lifter. Do you remember that? And he rips his fucking arms off.
I remember that. I've got a funny story about that.
Okay, go for it.
This is really early in my, I was in my 20s, I think, and I was just seeing a random doctor. It was just a primary care place. I didn't have a relationship, getting some blood work or checkup done or whatever. And first, the guy told me I was morbidly obese because of my body weight. And I'm like, no. And then he was like, basically a lot of negative things towards lifting. He's like, I don't know if you should be lifting heavy like that. I saw this one time, this guy ripped his, I'm like, that's a Saturday Night Live skit. Like, dude, you're like, the fact you're a medical professional and you can think that that's possible. It's just like, just like, you've got to be kidding me. All seriousness, like, he had that stuck in his memory from bank somewhere. Saw me as a lifter. It's like, you need to be careful.
I saw somebody rip their arms off.
Like, you cannot, like, your body will not allow you to do something like that.
But it kind of, for people that are listening that don't know about Chris, I'm sure you will look him up, and you should look him up after this. As with the Mang Dojo podcast, we're really trying to help men get out of, and this is something we'll talk about in a little bit, but there seems to be a gravity that happens with middle-aged men where they start collecting problems and challenges more than whenever they were younger. Big conversation, but people should definitely be looking into Chris, because the things that Chris is into can give a person like an Albert Einstein fused with an alien level entryway into how to optimize yourself and beat off the weakness and the darkness and the depression that comes along with being a male in the 21st century. Chris has all kinds of amazing, super deep, super nerdy, super smart protocols for anybody that's looking to get themselves forward or up and out. That's kind of the perspective that we have here, but people should be looking into Chris, and you probably will be looking into Chris. And one of the things that I find interesting, Chris, is that like guys like yourself and John Hack, like, yeah, you're big, and yes, you were bigger when you were taking an ungodly amount of pharmaceuticals and doing these fucking crazy things. But like, if you guys have a coat on and you're walking down the street, you don't look giant. Like,
no. Yep.
And neither does John. Like John Hack, if he puts a sweatshirt on, you wouldn't even know.
Yep.
Like,
you're like, oh, you're a well-built guy.
Yeah.
Hey, maybe you do some CrossFit, or you got a big frame. You're farm boy strong.
Yeah. You're country strong, as they used to say. And Hack is like 5'7", 5'8", or something like that. And if you walk by him, you would have no idea that he's like one of the strongest humans on the planet right now.
Yep.
So, it's the human body's amazing, and you don't have to have big, bubbly bodybuilder muscles to be a fucking machine.
There is so much that's neurological and neurochemical based around strength and performance that people don't realize. You look at this and then you go, it's hypertrophy, building big muscles. And yeah, that's a part of it, but that's one aspect of it. If you don't have the neurological drive, like that is where strength comes in. Your ability to recruit the fibers of the muscle in the timing that you can do that. And then the organization of being able to do that, to create movement.
Do you get shit? I know you kind of do. I think I've heard you say it before. But do you get shit because you pulled 1,000, but you used sumo?
I did this one great video one time where it was actually, I think it was like 4 or 5 months after I pulled the 1,000. I woke up one day and I had this dream, and I was deadlifting 675 pounds, which is 7 plates on the side of the bar. And I did it for 20 reps. And then it was in my dream, right? And then I set the bar down and I said, fuck all the haters. And then I went and pulled it for 10 reps conventional, right? That was my dream. I woke up and I'm like, oh my God. It was just like this compelling, like, I've got to go do this. Like, I must go do this. So I jump in my car. I think I was still working at the time. Yeah, I still had my career. So it was like, I was going to go do this before work. And I call up my media guy. I'm like, hey, you got to, oh no, I wasn't, but we had some morning meetings that I had to get to. So I call my media guy. I'm like, you got to meet me at the gym. I've got to do something. And I get in there. It's super early, crank on the lights and the music, work up, and I pull 675 pounds for 20 reps.
Oh my God.
And it's so fast. I mean, the bar is just like,
yeah.
The bar isn't finished bending by the time I'm going back. Like, it's still upswinging. Yeah. So they almost, if you slow it down, because it looks like, oh, he didn't even lock those out. But if you see, I did lock them out hard and strong.
Yeah.
But the bar is actually like springing back up as I'm going down, because I'm just like, it's just fast. I get done and I'm like, I'm going to pull it conventional, just like in my dream. And so I pulled it for 10 reps, and I'm pretty confident I could have finished another 20. But by that time I was like getting physically like sick. I had to like go throw up because it's just like that amount of work in that period of time was just insane. But yeah, that shut a lot of people. It shut a lot of people up. But that is something with when people look at like my technique, they go, hey, the bar's barely moving. And there's discussions online, like whether I'm like 5'4" or 5'7". I'm like, I'm like any guy that's not quite 5'11". I'm 5'10" and a half, so, but I'm perfectly average height and wingspan and all this, but my movement is so clean. It looks like the bar's not moving very high. Sure. Because my movement to get that. But if you look at like the size of the plate and then the size of how high it off, it's like, no, it's a normal deadlift. It's not super wide. It's actually a moderate kind of, it's what they call a semi sumo. Okay. So it's like a narrow sumo stance lift as well. So it's not the super wide pulls that barely break the bar off the ground. So anyway, it's just funny though, because if you like watch my deadlifts and you'll see what I'm talking about. They're just super clean for movement. So it looks like you're barely moving, even though you're moving the bar the same height at the end of it.
Yes. Yeah. It's the difference between like the Monday morning quarterback people in the comments section and cats who know how to deadlift for real. Like, you're not the only person that says that. Just about everybody that I've been exposed to that deadlifts for real says the same thing. Look, we're just trying to lock out and move the bar in the shortest distance possible. No extra movement, just point A to point B. Deadlift is just get it to point B and lock out. It's not anything more than that. And if you look at these guys who, like yourself, who have turned it into a science, it's a relatively short bar path. It's what is it? Yep. 6 inches, 7 inches up or whatever. I've never measured it, but it's not that far, generally speaking. It's not supposed to be.
But yeah, I can sit there and do the lift 2 different ways and it'll look, even though the bar ends in the same spot, the same exact movement, conventional or sumo. And I can make both look like one of the movements, the conventional is twice the length of the other conventional, and the sumo looks like it's twice. Just that how you actually do the lift makes it appear. But if you freeze frame and look at the finish position, start positions, they're exactly the same. But the appearance of movement by what the body is doing is different. But what's unique is there is a lot of really sumo pullers in the 500 to like 700 pound range. But once you go above like 750, there gets to be very few sumo pullers.
Yeah.
800 plus pound sumo deadlifters, pretty rare. 900 plus pounds sumo deadlifters, incredibly rare. A handful of them.
Yeah.
1,000 plus, like 2. Well, I think 3 now. So it's the majority of all the biggest pulls, 900 pounds, by far over 80% are all conventional deadlifts.
So we talked a bit on the phone during the consultation call that I had with you, and I told you I'm 6'4". I've got, my femurs are 2 feet long. I have Kareem Abdul-Jabbar's fucking like femurs or like leg proportions. When I do any sumo, I do have to narrow it, right? Because I like to do conventional and sumo both. Mm-hmm. But I most definitely feel more pressure on the inside part of the knee when I sumo. When you sumo, do you notice differences in the pressure on your knee? Do you have to think about that? Or is it just you feel basically the same? You don't even think about it?
It feels exactly the same.
Okay.
Yeah. So if you're feeling that, you've got to play around with your positioning and setup and where you're creating tension in the body. So if you think about any of your lifts, it's around what are the strategies you're doing to create tension in your body? Mm-hmm. And if you're creating that tension effectively, the lift just happens. The lift is the lift, and you can't fuck it up if you do create the right tension. There is no way out but to complete the lift. It's just a natural thing of it. So all the coaching and thought process goes into the setup. So with that, those knees are probably not quite getting pulled open and getting stacked over the ankles as much. So they're probably, as you're driving your hips in, you're not getting them tight enough to the bar forward without letting them dip down. So you're driving those knees out, along the bar as you're pulling and driving that in and creating this tension in the body. And really that tension starts separating your shoulders from the ground, and you're shoving your body between those 2 points. You're just wedging it in until you create that tension that locks it in place. And so you've got a little bit of an energy leak in that spring where that knee's kind of caved in just a little bit. Yep. And then you've got that inward strain on that knee.
Yeah. Got it. Okay. So I'll be listening back to that to take the notes again. I just wanted to see if you had felt that, because you went very high with the weight. You're somebody who, there aren't many sumo guys that have gone that heavy. And when you went that heavy, did you really feel a difference? And the answer is no. So I want to go meta with this. I know I said we weren't going to spend much time on the physical, but this is so fun. So part of my expertise in the world is the relationship between humans and weapons and the entirety of that history. It's quite an extensive history, right? And as a matter of fact, weapons have been on the planet so long, and it's so normal for planet Earth that weapons were on the planet before humans were on the planet. So Homo heidelbergensis and Neanderthals that were here before we had weapons, and we weren't even here. So I have had to go all the way back to the point in the archaeological record where we know humans have started from. Like there's anatomic evidence, what's called postcranial evidence, which is everything below the skull, because we don't have any human skulls way, way, way back. But we do have finger bones and toes and shit like that. So, that earliest evidence is about 300,000 years ago. Give or take a little. We most certainly have spear tips from 270,000 years ago that are human. Ethiopia. Why am I saying this? Because humans have been on the planet for 300,000 years. Okay, Homo sapien species. Mm-hmm. You are the only Homo sapien in 300,000 years who has been able to display strength using the two criteria, the one together, the deadlift, right, and the squat at that level. You're the only Homo sapien ever in 300,000 years who has done that. Do you ever look in the mirror and go, what the fuck? Like, how, like, I'm that person. That is a display. We're talking about, like, okay, so Brian Shaw, super strong. Like, all these dudes are so, Thor, strong as fuck, right? You guys are all like hack. You guys are all like the strongest humans, right? In this regard.
Yep.
But that really puts you in physically the strongest Homo sapiens that have ever lived. Does that ever hit you? Is the question.
I always try to contextualize things.
Okay.
And I think it's important to try to have, humility with anything that you can do. Right. I had the opportunity to focus solely on those things for a period of time. This point in where we're at in our evolution, the knowledge around training and science and the tools that we used was all in place. Now, it wasn't in place like to just hand off that way. Like, I had to pull that together and create that from a lot of different modalities that were available at the time. And that's a unique thing that I did, was blending this clinical science with training science during this period of time, and really brought about some major changes in the strength training industry as a whole, which I'm certainly quite proud of. But, I had the opportunity to do so. And that's so there's a lot of opportunities that came there. But yeah, I did also very specifically choose, like, I want to demonstrate two of the most fundamental human movement patterns: picking something up off the ground and doing a squat movement, which are both two of the basic fundamental movement patterns there are. And so, yeah, I'm proud of that. When I think back of like pulling that off and how I did, like, to me, it's like, I don't know how, like, you were like, how the fuck did that? How did I fucking, like, that is like, I never walk through that again. Like, that was like insane what I went through to pull that off. I mean, it was just fucking insane.
Yeah. I have that same feeling in a different way. That we only use the audio for this podcast. We don't use the video, but
okay.
Of course, but this is the part of the research project. Let me see that. The Liberal Gun Owners Lens research project that I started, and it is the most comprehensive study of the relationship between humans and weapons ever, right? In four pillars: anthropology, law, culture and society, and philosophy. And when I finished that, what I just showed you, it's the first time I've ever done something like that, like B- student in college, not really a great writer. When I finished that, I mean, it was 2 years, just that one thing that I just showed you is 2 years. And after I finished it, some time went by, and I had a copy sitting on my desk, and I looked at it, and I read it. I still look at it, and I'm like, who wrote that? Like, it was like I was possessed.
It's like third person. You're like,
yeah, I have no, I'm like, I literally look at it like, how did I fucking, like, I laid, like the book, I know there was no printer, there was no publisher. I did all of the infographics, the layout, the whole fucking thing myself. I'd never done anything like it. And I look at it and it's like some other fucking person did it. Yeah. So I can relate. Not quite as risky and dangerous. Are you okay with answering this question? I've heard you answer it generally before. You've said when you did those things, you were taking an ungodly amount of pharmaceuticals, and your wife I can't remember if it was your first wife or your second wife at the time, but was not very happy or didn't want you to continue, or it was too dangerous or whatever. Are you okay telling us what your stack was? Or is that too
Yeah, we can go through that.
Okay.
And I would actually say that the massive amount of pharmaceuticals was in the end range of my competitive career. So
Okay.
I started using anabolics at 33. So it's pretty late to the game. I was already an 800 plus pound deadlifter at 198 pound body weight,
Hmm.
but I was pushing my body so hard that my testosterone was like incredibly low. I was down below 200 on test levels. So clinically low. And I'd been putting it off because I was competing as a drug tested athlete. And so I started at 33 and I used through my 30s. And the final few years, I was working with an IFBB pro who suggested a lot of anabolics, and you know what, they worked, but actually netted out like the same exact results because I just was so lethargic and felt like crap and couldn't train as well. Like I got more from my training, but I wasn't able to just go crush it in the gym. So the whole net response was like the same.
Okay.
Like, I was working less. I was to get the results, but I was working less, so the results were the same, and I was just crap and unhealthy. So by the time I was chasing the 1,000-pound squat and these singular focus goals, I was actually using significantly less. I was using like maybe a tenth of what I was using in the competitive days when I was setting, the all-time world record on the squat and trying to set some ungodly things on the competitive platform. I relied on, so for my 1,000-pound squat, I had a test base. I was running, what was that? It's called Mint. But it's I can't think of the drug name of that at this point. I liked injectable D-Bol, so I was running that, and then on training days in the final phases, I was using halotestin and methyltren, which are pretty strong neurological compounds. So a lot of this was a little bit more neurological based in my approach. Like I was using those pharmaceuticals that were triggers in that realm, as opposed to having ones that were putting on a bunch of mass or strength in the traditional fashions, because I discovered that was the lens with which I was looking at my pharmaceuticals at that point in time, which is a very different lens than most people look at those.
Yeah. And did that cover recovery too? Like, was there one of those that was good for recovery, and that's why it was in the stack?
No, there wasn't really any of those that were. I mean, the steroids, like that's how they work, though, is enhancing your recovery abilities.
Gotcha.
Right? That's. I think some of the misnomer around anabolics is just understanding. Taking them, adds a certain level of strength, but what they do is enhance your recovery capabilities and allow you to train more than you normally would. So you still have to work for said results, but the recovery is certainly a big impact. The recovery modalities were a lot more of the other things. So it was like my preparatory work. It was using blood flow restriction prep and post. It was the movement methodologies. There was just a pulsed electromagnetic frequency bats. Like there was a lot of other methodologies that I was using, like my formula, Vasoblitz right here. I developed that around that time. 2016, which is just this incredible blend of nitrate products that really drives everything into the muscles. So this is something, if you're using, enhancing in any manner, it's going to allow you to use a lot less because you're just going to drive everything into the muscle. It's going to help recover. It's also going to help for me, like when I was not training like this mass amount all week long because I wasn't training like a power lifter or a bodybuilder, it was only a couple sessions, like walking into those sessions with my muscles filled out with the nutrients and the blood glucose, like it allowed me to walk in and not have to do the volume training, which would then allow me to recover better from these just crazy intense sessions where I might be deadlifting 900 plus, 15 times in a session twice a week. Right. But that was all my training. But if you weren't doing the volume work, your muscle would be flat, depleted. You wouldn't be able to, you're at higher risk of injury. So there was a lot of the other recovery was those other modalities, which have really built into this framework I call the regenerative amplification method. And that is, it's actually on my website. If you go to chrisduffin.com and click through coaching, or just go to the enhanced executive, I've got the RAM method on there, the regenerative amplification method, which is this integration of these movement methodologies and the neurological priming that they do, the different like non-redundant pathways. So I just mentioned PEMF, right? So PEMF has an impact on the mitochondrial functioning, right? So it's going to improve, particularly from like the toxicity that's happening from, pharmaceuticals, for example, like is going to, deplete the functioning of that. So that's going to enhance that, but it's also going to work on what I call a hydrodynamic level, which is it's literally going to pulse the microcapillaries in your system, which then enhances blood flow, recovery, regeneration. Well, you combine that with like Vasoblitz, which is a vasodilator, which is going to, again, enhance that nutrient uptake. So you've got things happening at a cellular level, as well as what's happening on, this hydrodynamic level of actually moving fluids and nutrients within the body, right? So the principles around this is really kind of this 4-tiered approach, right? And you can create these non-redundant pathways that build upon each other for maximizing your physiology. So we've got what most people think about, which is like your biomechanical, which is, again, kind of movement methodologies, getting the joints in the right position. What you're talking about, hey, my knees, I'm feeling this pull on here. Well, that's literally your positioning. Well, there's also a neurological component within that. If we're not in that great position, the body is going to sense the instability, the energy leaks, and it's going to detune the body. This is like why if you go try to sprint on ice, you literally cannot put your full force into that because your body is going to sense the opportunity to injure itself, and it's going to detune. Same systems we put in a vehicle. Your traction control on a vehicle isn't traction control. It's a detune the engine and shift patterns because it senses that you're going to slip off the icy corner and die a fiery death. Well, our bodies operate the same way. So we've got the neurological component, which the neurological component overlays into this biomechanical side of that as well. And then we've got the cellular level function. So cellular function, that's going to be affected by getting light, right? Getting photons to feed our mitochondria. So artificial, not getting natural sunlight, being able to ground, touch the earth, like some basic stuff. It doesn't have to be these ancillary things that you have to go buy. The world does provide these things. Like it's getting a whole food diet. It's getting cold exposure during the winter so that the body knows, hey, it's that time of year. I'm not getting as much light. I need to produce light internally with infrared to make up for that, to feed the cells in that manner, right? Which also happens from eating food that is in season as well and local to your area. Like the world does provide. But, how do we feed in? Okay, red light therapy, pulse electromagnetic, because again, we live in an environment we don't have like all of that. And then you've got, the things that feed the hydrodynamic, which come into supplementation. Again, some of those other same modalities shockwave treatment, EWST, which I've used extensively in both my recovery protocols as well as some of the athletes that I have taken from career-ending injuries to back to the platform at a world champion level, like in 6 months or less. Those work those same pathways, and then you can feed in the peptides. And I've been actually using peptides long before I used anabolics. I started playing around with peptides around 2003. And peptides, again, they're in our natural environment, our food, our body creates them. But there's some breakdown, there's some opportunity for refining, again, because of the world that we live in. We've got exposure to a lot of environmental toxins and taking away of things from, I'm getting sunlight. Well, no, you're sitting behind a window. Every single pane of glass has to be low E compliant and filters out literally the light that is, beneficial to our cells. Right. So I'm sitting here in this podcast studio with a bunch of artificial fluorescent light in front of me. Like, there's a lot of things that are breaking that down. So anyway, the regenerative amplification method is really kind of the output of that in this multidisciplinary approach that helps assist the recovery. Sorry for going on a big tangent,
It's fine.
This is literally what I was developing during the course of this.
Yeah.
And so at the time I was producing a lot of content around the biomechanical and neurological functions, but I was using a lot of those other modalities and peptides to enhance that functioning, cellular level functioning, and being able to recover in a way that other people couldn't.
Right. And so for everybody that's listening, so Chris just went into his world and is talking to everybody about the intellectual products of his brain and processing relative to strength. But also, Chris applies this same level of expertise over into the realm of wellness, right? He moves it over into the realm of wellness. And it seemingly, Chris, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but that's sort of where you are right now, which is, yes, you're still doing athletic performance, high level consulting with athletic performance and biomechanics and movement, but you're also shifting it over into how do we optimize ourselves as humans? How do we optimize our health? And so you guys that are listening, you can hear, and what Chris just did, yeah, it sounded super eggheady, right? But Chris is giving people handles and knobs over their life, over their wellness and their strength and their potential. He's giving people at the I don't want to say in the level of minutia, because that makes it sound like that's a negative, but it's really giving people dials over themselves. And one of the reasons why this podcast is here is because I feel like men generally don't have those things, or they're not aware of them, or they're not inspired to look for them.
Yeah.
Or even if they find them, they don't know what to fucking do with them, because men are typically just supposed to shut the fuck up and swallow everything, kind of generally speaking. And Chris is offering basically for free, if you go over to Endless Evolution and the community there that surrounds Chris, there is a lifetime's worth of free high level information for people. And this is one of the great benefits of having Chris Duffin in the world, is he's doing this shit he doesn't do everything for free, of course, but the amount of shit that Chris offers for free is crazy.
Yeah. I put, it's almost all out there if you want to dive in. And then, yeah, I coach people, that need and want that guidance. You want me to look at your blood work, look at your life, look at all these factors and dial that in. That's what I do. Are there a few athletes I still work with? Yes. Generally it's some, post-surgery major trauma type thing. But a lot of the individuals I work with are executives that have, they're trying to run, building a company. They're wherever they're at in life, cognition is starting to struggle, maybe some depression, all these other factors are feeding in there. Hey, they've got diabetes markers, so on. Like that is like, we just sit there and just like you said, fine tune those knobs. And all of a sudden their doctor's going, what did you do? Like you were diabetic and hyperlipid. We're on all these medications 2 months ago. And literally I'm taking you off everything. Like, well, because we fixed the base level things that are happening in that body, like, and they're performing better at their work because, like I said, the clarity's there, the energy, the vibrancy, bringing those things back. So it's like, that's a lot of people that I work with that, I put the content out there for free. And then, what I do is people that need and want that personalized guidance, walk through that process with them. And I don't try to sell it because it's like, if you need it, I'm here for you. If not, if you want a self-guide, like there you go.
Yeah. I mean, the information is there and you could spend a lot of time going on the internet and spreading out, and it would take an ungodly amount of time to get all of the information collected and ordered and shit. But Chris and Anthony and other people in the community are there already, having had collected it, analyzed it themselves, experimented themselves, baked things into small protocols. It's already sitting there. And so for anybody that's interested in, taking optimization and wellness to like a new level, I couldn't recommend you guys enough. Also, Chris held up the Vasoblitz. Like, I'm like now a Vasoblitz addict. And it legit is the best, outside of everything else, it's the best smelling and best tasting sup, I think. And I've been doing sups since back when we were young, like the first Weeder sups.
Oh, yeah.
Do you know what I mean? With the picture of Joe on the front as like a cartoon and the thing, like whatever those were, like whey proteins or whatever. All those things did was like made me more hungry and made me want to get more fat, but they were there. But I've been doing subs that long, and it legit, Vasoblitz is like the most awesome smelling, attractive, most tasty supplement I think I've ever used. Not to mention what's in it, which Chris sort of mentioned. I would just drink it for the vitamin C.
I recommend it as a base level to everyone because it just enhances. If you're eating well, it's going to enhance it. If you're any of the things, if you're training, it enhances it. If you're, taking, TRT, it's going to enhance, like it's going to take all of that. And at the end of the day, it is something that you could bypass and do with a diet. But it gets super complicated because it's like nature provides. Like, all right, I need to have this many beets, and I have the raw tomato, and by this amount with some blackstrap molasses, and after these meals, eat a piece of cat. Like, there's a way to get these nutrients that do the same thing in the world. Yeah. But it's pretty dang hard, and thus Vasoblitz is like super easy. You take a scoop, and it literally builds. Like your first 3 weeks, it just gets better and better and better. It enhances anabolism. It enhances endurance strength. It enhances recovery. It enhances hypertrophy. Like, it's working those pathways on that level to supply and move things within the body.
And it doesn't have stimulants in it on purpose, so people can decide if they want to add caffeine or whatever else, which I think is one of the best decisions that you made. It sets it so far apart because you decide if you want to stim it or not.
Yeah, it was an industry first when I did that.
Yeah, because everybody is looking for that effect, right? Like, it's if I get a buzz, that means good.
You like, feel it like right then.
Yes, that's like the like jabroni bro science mentality behind most of the consumption of subs, I would say. Looking for that thing that makes you feel like you're about to turn into the Hulk before the gym or during the gym.
And the problem is too, you have to. It's not an acute based supplement; it's a chronic based, which means you actually have to load and take it over time.
Yeah.
And so you have to take it every day. to build that up within you. So if you put the stimulants in there, you're really minimizing. And that's what people are doing, is taking those products, putting them in the pre-workouts, which does work, but it's not the same thing as like, you need to build that.
What is going on, everyone? Tis Miyanovich, and I welcome you to the main dojo, the place where we process the raw struggles of men in an unprecedented paradigm. There is something inside of you that wants you to be more than what you are. But there also may be something inside of you that wants you to go down. And for some of us, that means going down for good. So, remove your ego, drop your bullshit, become vulnerable, and step into the dojo, mate.